Sean Dietrich, Sean of the South, my favorite Sean in all of the Seandom. Thank you for joining me today on For Real. I'm so happy you're back.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And that's a huge compliment to be your favorite Sean. I mean, there's so many to choose from.
There are a lot of them. There were several in my elementary school. We won't get into it, but you far, far exceed any expectations I would have for a Sean after that encounter.
Well, that is going on my tombstone.
The best of Sean's. Okay, Sean, before we even dive in, I just want to start by saying I don't understand you. And I don't mean it's your Alabama accent. I do understand that. I can't understand your consistent output of creativity. I have some stats here. 18 books. I'm probably wrong. It's probably outdated. So correct me.
I don't
Best
know.
of Sean's. 18 books, 4,000 newspaper columns. How many Grand Ole Opry appearances?
6 or 7.
Okay. 2 albums of music that I could find, but probably more than that. A really fantastic ongoing series of reels on Instagram where you pair music, live music, with the stories that they're made of. This is my question. All of those things take roughly 8 million hours per endeavor. And you are not in your 90s. So I want to know 2 things. How do you do this? And why do you do this?
Okay, that's a good question. The why. The how is just simply that I have a mental illness.
That's not true.
I'm compulsive. I just
You're compelled to do it. You feel like you have to do it. Yeah.
I do. When it comes to writing, I don't feel that I've digested current events or what I'm going through or what's happening in my spiritual life. I don't feel like I'm digesting any of it unless I'm putting words to it. It's such a bizarre thing, but like my wife and I can't even go on a vacation without me needing to write a little bit about it, because when I do, I feel that I'm living it a lot. I'm enjoying a much richer experience.
Okay.
So that happens with the writing. And then with the music has been, I think you said your mother was a violinist.
Yeah. Wow. Good memory. Yes.
So I remember my life as a child. Music is like, it's not something you choose. It kind of chooses you, and you just can't stop. So my music has always been probably my main thing. Before I even knew I was going to be a writer, everybody kind of assumed, oh, well, Sean's going to grow up and, he's going to do music. So now it's so fun for me to figure out ways to combine those two together, because they're both forms of storytelling, and storytelling is just who we are. So anyway, I don't know. That's the why. And the how is just, I don't sleep.
For real.
Yeah, for really. Sometimes like the last couple of days, my sister and her brother-in-law, they're videographers and photographers. We came to the lake and shot reels and stuff. We went from morning until like midnight, 2 days in a row. And we work really well together and have a whole lot of fun together. But when it was done, I thought, I don't think I ever want to play music again.
I take back what I said about how music chooses you. I say no.
Exactly.
So the reels on Instagram where you are, I've watched a pile of them and they are so wonderful. You often kind of set up the story behind the story. So you set up the story behind the piece or the music or the song or the hymn or whatever. And then you play and you sing. And it's, first of all, I love the whole construct of that. I actually really noticed and loved the videography and how just visually what that looks like. So are you saying you bang out a ton of those at a time with your sister?
Yes.
And then you have them to batch. Wow.
Yeah. Yesterday and the day before, we just went from morning till night. And when it got dark, we built a campfire and we kept going by the campfire.
Oh my gosh.
And then I work on a new batch and we do it again. So I love it because it's actually given me, aside from doing what we do, telling the stories and playing the music, which also I feel is extremely important. There's so much of our hymns that are being lost to the modern generations. And there's so many of our American our American
Songbook.
songs, yeah, like, I mean,
Yeah.
just songs as simple as "Mary Had a Little Lamb."
Mm.
I sang that in one of my shows, and I had several kids come up to me afterward and say they'd never heard that song before, and I thought, "Really?
What?
Never heard Mary Had a Little Lamb?" But, you know, it makes sense as the farther we get away from those
Mm.
generations. So anyway, I just try to reintroduce people to those songs. But what I was
Mm.
gonna say before I cut myself off
I love it. I'm here for all of it.
is that it's been really fun shooting these videos because it's given me another way to reconnect with my sister
Yeah.
in an artistic way.
Hmm. Well, now that I know she's behind the camera, I hope she also sings with you sometimes. This is the sister that sings?
Yes, she does. She
Yeah,
does.
she has a beautiful
We're
voice.
working on that.
Okay.
She's awesome. We can't figure out how she can do both at the same time, but
Well, if anyone can, it's someone in your gene pool because you seem to multitask. Oh, that's wonderful. I do love that nod to history. And I agree with you that folk songs in particular, but I just watched one not too long ago where you did Straighten Up and Fly Right, which was a
yeah,
jazz standard. I learned it as a jazz standard years ago. I love the story underneath those stories. I think that's the story of our nation. So
yeah.
love it. I love that you're doing that.
It was a sermon. I mean, it's funny. I mean,
Crazy. I
if you
never
trace
would have known that.
every folk song back, if you trace it back far enough, it's gonna get to a spiritual element.
Amazing. I love it. And I will say, I really love that you're a good musician because as compelling as a story can be, if you were setting this up and then I had to fast forward, it wouldn't be as fun. So thanks for being good at that part. Now I'd like to talk about your wife, Jamie. I'm a huge fan of Jamie. I think she's so great. I met her through you, but
Yeah.
you don't email. And Jamie emails. She's the person in charge of doing all that stuff. I will tell you, I asked her to join us today, and she gave me a non-negotiable no. There was zero movement on that. She
She has
said
done
no.
that. I think she's done no, I don't think she's ever done anything like this with me. She did one interview with like a newspaper, like a little small town newspaper we
Yeah.
did, and she was so nervous the whole time, and she did not feel when it was over, she felt like she had, like,
Not
made a
said what she wanted.
yeah, right. So that was it. So
That's how we all feel, but Jamie's just really honest about it.
yeah,
I think
exactly.
she's magnificent. I
Jamie is
love, oh yeah, go ahead.
she is my life. Like, she
Mm.
is my life aside from the career.
Mhm.
She is also my whole career. Everything
Yeah.
that is happening in my life, everything that has ever been good that has happened, it's all and I don't just mean because of her, because she's my inspiration. I mean, she actually physically made it happen. So she
So
is Sean of the South. I'm really just eye candy.
you're just the figurehead. Got it. That's good. I'm so glad you said that because that's what I want to know more about. You two work very closely together.
Um,
Your job is her job is your job. You are working in tandem. You're a dynamic duo. Um, I have seen that pairing in other couples bite the dust and
oh,
go up in flames like within 48 hours. I am wildly in love with my husband, and I will not be joining him at his workplace. It just wouldn't work. I know it wouldn't, and that's just a healthy little situation to avoid. I want to know, what are your ideas on why you two work so well together? And also, would you say anything to younger Sean
yeah.
about how to maybe make that go better faster? Or was it always just awesome? You didn't have to learn anything.
Oh, no, no, it wasn't always awesome. So why it works so well, I believe, is because Jamie has a skill set and talents that lie in an arena where I have none.
Okay. There's
In
no overlap in the Venn diagram. Got it.
that arena, I am just like an elephant trying to use a bow and arrow. None of it makes sense. So when I watch her do her black magic, I think, wow. I mean, she handles all the numbers. She handles all
Yeah.
of the business stuff. She handles anything that has to do with a contract. Whenever we work with book publishers, the publishers only talk to her. They never
Mhm.
even talk to me. I don't ever hear them. They don't have my email. They don't have, and I don't.
Amazing.
And her defense for me is that she never tells me of their deadline. So if I am late at the deadline, I won't know it. If I'm early with the deadline, I won't know it, because if I don't know the deadline, I'm usually a lot more productive. I'm a lot faster.
Interesting.
Once I know the deadline, So
Wait a minute. What? You don't know the deadline for your own manuscript. You just know you
no,
got a book due sometime and you
yes,
write the book?
yeah, yeah.
What?
If I know a deadline, I slow down.
Yeah,
I
it
because
freaks you out.
well,
Did
yeah,
you have to learn that?
yeah, I did actually. A friend of mine who was my therapist for quite a long
Yeah.
time uh, suggested this. He said, "Look,
Okay.
the deadline thing that's not for you. Have you ever operated well under a deadline, Sean?" And I said, "Well, no. I mean, normally what happens if I have a deadline, I get it all done the night before. You know,
Aha.
I put it off where it's paralysis by analysis. But
Amazing.
when I don't know a deadline, I mean, I can be a workhorse, but
Yeah.
I have to know what my working rhythm is, and that's part of my rhythm. But anyway, she handles everything.
That's
She goes to
amazing.
all the meetings. She talks to all the people. She's our when it comes to our live shows, we're on the road like 80% of the year. She manages all of
All
this.
of that.
She talks to every theater. She does everything. So
Amazing.
my the only contribution is I write. Right in the passenger seat while because she drives our van. So I don't even
Amazing.
drive. So she drives for hours and hours to when we're on the road. And I sit in the passenger seat and I write or
Yeah.
I sit or I whatever. And I work on my music. I fiddle in the car and she hates that, but she listens to her audiobook. But she's not musical. So if she were, and she's not,
Yeah.
she doesn't consider herself a writer, although she could be. That woman could do whatever she wants to do. But because we're in our own little
Yeah.
regions, it feels like we have two different jobs. And then we come together on show night whenever we're like at a theater. And it's awesome because we're actually working now in tandem.
In the
And
same space.
yeah, and it feels like we're a baseball team. And it's really fun
Amazing.
because my curveball's popping and she's catching and calling. It's a fun, we have fun together. If I can give advice to young Sean, like when he's younger, um, I would say to him, just don't worry about it. I just don't just just don't worry about any of this stuff. Let someone who has been programmed to excel at this kind of her side of the work,
Mhm.
just let that person do what they were made to do, and you just do what you were made to do. And it's
Great
when I
advice.
cross over, which I can't, I maybe in the very beginning I might have tried. It's when I cross over into that arena that she's in that we have problems, that I have
Yeah.
problems. So,
Ah, what a
but she never gets to
fantastic
read, she
partnership.
never, in the same vein, artistically, she never gets to read my books. She never gets to hear, she never hears anything until it's the final product because I don't want
Mhm.
her input
Mhm.
beforehand because
Right.
if I have her input, I'll start writing to please her
Mhm.
instead of writing to please the inner muse, whatever.
Mhm. Oh, I hear that. I learned very early on. Mark is a ninja at detail and copy editing and noticing when things are going awry, but early drafts are not the time to employ that muscle. So, like, if I needed him to weigh in on the emotional arc of a character, he would look at me blankly and say, "Well, she was in a red shirt and now she's in a blue shirt, and it's the same scene." So we just know our gifts, and there's a
Yes.
beauty in that. That's for sure. Oh, that's awesome. Sean, I always feel like I'm hanging out with you because I read pretty much all of your columns. I feel like that is superstar fan status because, as we mentioned, 4,000 columns. But you have a fairly new book out called Over Yonder. This is a beautiful novel. And listen, I just want to say off the top, when I have written fiction before and had conversations, public conversations about them, I'm always a little uncomfortable because what I really want for the reader is for the reader to dip her toes in the book or his toes in the book and not come up for air. And if we talk too much about the specifics of this very beautiful, highly recommended novel, people won't buy it and enjoy it for themselves. I don't want to spoil
You,
one thing. Okay.
thank you for getting that.
I
That's
totally get it. Let's not ruin the fun. When I read your fiction, I know you promise a great story. I know I'm going to love your book, and I know you're going to deliver on two absolutely crucial things. First, humor that causes me to make really indelicate snorting noises. And two, layered characters that just have me rooting for them. And I want to hear your thoughts on both of those things. So, first, talk to me about humor and writing humor. You have weathered a lot of pain and loss and trauma and suffering in your life, and you have written and spoken about that in other places. But I know I feel that heartbeat even in your fiction. I feel that comes in, that awareness of the pathos of being a human being.
Yeah.
And I wonder if you were always able to incorporate humor, not just in your writing, but in your life, or did you have to learn that as a survival skill? Talk to me about humor.
Humor is definitely a coping mechanism, and I find that humor is strongest in people who have been through the most. At least the true kind of humor that's not just sarcasm, although sarcasm is a beautiful thing. But I find that at some point in my life, I had this realization that all of my friends, they had all, I mean, I guess I was maybe 18, 19. I looked around at all of my closest friends and all the closest friends I've had since my father died and since we grew up so hard. All of my friends had suffered immeasurable loss, big time. And I wondered at that. And I realized that there were a lot of people my age who had not yet, but I somehow had the most in common with all of these people who had suffered a lot of loss. Like either they had the death of a parent or the death of anything, a brother or their parent, their dad had left them and their mother was a single mother. I also paid attention to how they were, and I noticed that every single one of them had a biting sense of humor, and then I started paying attention to our time together, and I realized that we were always ripping on other situations. When things got bad, we were the ones who really made it funny among ourselves. And I really find that interesting. And I love that because this is a really human way of dealing with pain is to naturally belittle it, and actually step back and say, isn't this silly? Isn't this so trivial compared to the grand picture of life? So anyway, yes, in a sense, it came very natural. But then in another sense, when it comes to delivering it toward people in a very powerful way, you do have to follow a few rules, so because you want the joke to land, so you can get so into the craft of like popping a joke and gee, does this sound better in the meter of it? So I have worked at that because to especially in reading, to read it done well is fun. To read it done wrong is like it's just okay. You know what I'm saying? And
Totally.
I would consider myself not even okay. So,
Oh,
but
I
I
disagree.
try.
Oh, I disagree. Remember, indelicate snorting noises. I think it takes a lot for me to laugh out loud at the written word because I'm kind of snooty about that because I write into the humor space too. And so I hear exactly what you're saying. On the one hand, it comes fairly naturally to me. And on the other hand, I work really hard to make sure the zinger is the zinger and that I don't go one beat too far or one beat too many.
And not overplay it, not overplay
right.
it so
Let it
easy.
just be.
Yeah, there's so many people who have a really good, I'm reading a series of books right now, shall remain anonymous, but I love it. I love them. But the humor in it is all the ideas are so good, but the execution is just a little too forced. And I think, oh, if it could have only been just dialed back a little bit, I think it would have landed so much harder. But that's my opinion, and
no, it's true.
Means nothing. But
no, I think that it does. I agree with you. I think oftentimes the foot's just on the gas too long.
Yeah.
Like it's like we're saying, isn't that funny? Mom, 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 mom. Isn't that funny? Instead of just saying it once and moonwalking out of the room. So
because the most funny writing to me is when the reader is in participation in the joke, because you give them just a little, you don't give them too much, and they give you the rest. Because
They
Yeah, they're
fill it
fine.
in.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, you do that in spades in all of your writing, including in Over Yonder. And I want part two of that question. This book, as this is true for all of your writing, but you write characters that really from the first, unless they're just plainly despicable people, even the despicable ones, I'm kind of rooting for them. So far, I'm not rooting for Tater. But in general, I am so on their team. You have this ability to not make things too saccharine, right? I'm not reading and thinking, wow, this is so clear. This is the good guy. This is the bad guy. Like, I feel like you allow them to be layered and to be interesting people. But man, I want them all to win. So,
Sure.
you just mentioned some of your rules for humor. What's your rule for a character you want to stick with for a full 80,000 words?
My rule is that all characters, and I've stolen this. I heard this from I was a big Downton Abbey fan. So
Oh, same. Let's not use our pretend British accents, but just know I hear you.
Julian Fellows said he wanted all of the characters to try their best.
Ah,
And I
that's
like
good.
that.
That's
I
good.
like that. I want all my characters to
Mm,
try their best because I do believe in life. So much of my learning who I am, and I'm trying to learn every day who I am.
mm,
I'm trying to learn who other people are too at the same time, and how we work together. And part of that learning is to learn that there are no villains in my life, that these are just people and they've screwed up, then they're doing their best. I do believe everybody is trying to do their best. I mean, with the exceptions, but I want, I don't want villains in my books to be unredeemable.
mm,
And I don't want anybody in the book to just be, yeah, like you said, saccharine, phony. I do my best to write every character as somebody that I actually know. So
mm,
everybody who's in any one of my books is absolutely based on a person. And then basically I just play action figures and how would this person respond to this person who both of them
mhm,
I know really well. And usually I know how they would respond. I mean, if I had
mhm,
a train of these people in my real life, I know how they would respond. So the dialogue sort of writes itself, and I
mm.
hope that they come close to who the person is. And my wife, it's funny because when she reads the books, she knows who I'm.
Who you're talking about?
That's so and so, and that's me. Like, whoa, there I am again. Wow, you gave me what color of hair this time?
I have some theories about some. That's awesome. That's wonderful. You dedicated this book to your dad.
Yeah,
I want to read just a little bit of the dedication. Daddy was a good man. He just didn't know it. He was a religious man. Anyone honest enough to grapple with one's own religion is the most devout there is. He was a father, though he believed he didn't deserve the honor. He loved to smoke, and yet was a fitness enthusiast and long distance runner who often ate vegetarian. He was a hard guy to understand. This is a beautiful introduction, and you use language to show just what you were saying, that there were lots of facets to your dad. You hold him up to the light and you're going to see the light catch lots of different things. Some of those things probably feel contradictory even
yeah,
now.
yeah.
You've written a lot about your dad who died when you were very young. And I wonder about how thinking about your dad, how that has shifted over the years. And maybe even the writing about him, how that has shifted over the years. You've been writing a while.
Yeah.
And I'd wonder what you'd say about that.
Well, first of all, it's interesting that the book dedication, I'd finished the book. It was ready to go. We'd finished all the substead process, and Jamie and I were on the Camino de Santiago in Spain.
Mm-hmm.
And the email came through on my phone, one of the rare instances that I'm checking my phone. And they said, well, we still don't have the dedication. I thought, oh. And so Jamie and I were walking that day. We had like a 30-mile walk that day. And I'm writing it on my phone.
Wow.
And and I was in a super spiritual, reflective mind space at that time. There's so much happening out there in the community that's just it's powerful. Every day is powerful and special. That I wrote that I didn't even go back and I never even went back and edited. I just
Wow.
it was I read it when it came through, and I felt like 11-year-old Sean was joining with 42-year-old Sean, which is 1 year older than my dad was when he died. And so this year, that's part of the reason why we were walking the Camino, because there's so many things my dad would have done with his life that he didn't. And part of that contributed to his mental decay. And he was a great worker, and he valued all these hard Scrabble values that his family valued, and yet he never spent the majority of his life looking for and looking to identify and to embrace who he was. And I feel that I was going down that same road for a big part of my life, just kind of going through the motions. And last year, my wife and I were having this conversation, and the conversation was, I don't, I don't think, I don't think I want to just go through the motions anymore. If there's a way that I can make my life more about others and more about figuring out what this is inside me, this soul that I've been given as a gift, the most profound gift maybe that I'll ever know. And how can I be more in touch with that? How can I honor that more? So anyway, that's why we went on the Camino. And of course, that brings up all thoughts of my dad. I started writing about my dad. It's been about 12 years ago. And writing itself was basically a way to disinfect the wounds that he left. There was so much pus-like infection underneath the surface that had just sweltered until I was 30s. And the first time I lanced it, so to speak, and began to write, it all started flowing until the wound eventually cleaned itself. And then it began to heal. And then the writing changed tone. Then it wasn't about cleansing the wound. Now it was about rebuilding the wound. And then after the wound, I feel that the wound has largely healed. Now it's about building the layers on the skin on top the wound. Now scarring. Now we're scarring in a healthy way to not just rebuild the skin, but rebuild it stronger. And so this whole process for me is one that just keeps going, and I feel closer to my dad than ever. I feel his watchful eye more than I ever have before. I feel also that it was always there, but for a long time I pushed it aside because of, I had a lot of resentment toward him. I had a lot of in it, but yet I never fully resented him. I resented him halfway and then loved him the other half. Now I just have nothing but love. And it's taken a while to get there, but I'm making these strides every day. But I believe that writing is a powerful, powerful tool. If you keep adding words to your dictionary every day, to your own personal index, you have more words to describe how you feel, and you know more clearly how you feel. And if you know more clearly how you feel, then you are able to move past it. You do something about it. So,
well, you're here for that. That's hard work. I mean, I know that you said that beautifully, and I also honor how much work went into being able to say that because, um, pushing that aside feels so emergency status every day. Like if I'm going to get through this day, I can't, I
yeah.
can't go into that. Right.
Yeah.
My guess is that's why it waited for you. I want to turn to something that gives me perverse joy. And that is reading your hate mail. You share it every now and then in your column. And sometimes I read these out loud to Mark, who also is a very big fan of Sean Dietrich. I did some digging in my email when I was preparing for this conversation, and evidently I email Jamie every time I'm mad about your mail, which is she and I share this righteous anger about this. And I just have so much, I have huge feelings about people who take the time. See, my voice is getting higher in pitch. I'm having a hard time breathing. Take the time to say such nasty things to you. I mean, if I have an extra hour in my day, Sean, I am not going to write a letter to a feel-good author, really, to call him the Antichrist because he said he thinks SpongeBob is funny. This is an actual true story. Antichrist. Yeah, so I just want to tell me how you keep the nasty in perspective. Now, first of all, again, here's another example. You went first. You disempower, if that's a word. You take all the spice away by writing, like by sharing these things. So I think that's a really smart move. But how do you not give up? Because that would make me real snarky.
It is hard. It is this has been one of the hardest obstacles to figure out how to deal with is when I started doing this, because the internet is such an interesting thing.
So interesting.
We set it up like a comment mob can come at you, and within a few minutes, your jury can decide what the verdict is before you've even had a chance.
Yep. And it's veiled. The jury's veiled. You can't even see that it's Donnie down the street. Yeah.
And so the ugly comments just keep on. They just
gross.
They come just like by the gallon full. And so my first
Antichrist. I mean, you're being pretty nice about this. The Antichrist.
Yeah, that was the first time that had ever happened. I mean, I get them every day. I get the bad, but
you get every day. You get hate mail every day. You have people weigh in.
Yeah. Just this morning, I send them. Sometimes I send them to Jamie. I don't want to stress her out too bad. Yesterday,
we're both very irritated about this.
Yesterday, I got more than usual, and she was sharing with me in the morning because some came to her, and then I shared a few with her. And if you get too many, it can ruin your day.
Yeah.
But if you get just the perfect amount, it can give you a good laugh. And if you get none, maybe you're not doing anything right.
Oh,
so I don't know. But I decided to start sharing them because I wanted a chance to at least they email them to me sometimes. That's like you said, behind the veil, that is a really sly move, because then you can say stuff and nobody can see it.
Right.
I share them. This person didn't call me the Antichrist in the comments section. They call it,
That was a personal email. Okay, good.
So I kind of like to bring some light to what they do. And it gives me an opportunity to, this is totally serious, being serious now. It gives me a free column that I don't have to think about what I'm going to write. I can just let their words speak and be funny and not have to think too much about what to write.
Wow. That is the most well-adjusted answer you can possibly give, because I'm horrified. If someone called me the Antichrist, I feel like I'd have to take a breath. But you turned it into a great column, and I read it out loud and we howled.
I think the more I write about it, like I kind of drawn back on what I said earlier, if I write about things like that, it at least keeps me writing. It doesn't silence me, Because the hate mail, bad comments. If I had any advice for young writers in this day and age, because everything you do is out there now and comments are such a part of your life, it would be that don't read the comments if you can, but some are going to get through no matter what. So B, when you get them, deal with them head on. Take the dog by the ears and just write about it, talk about it. Don't let it by not addressing it, I think you give it more power over you than,
Oh, that's really good advice. And it's timely. When I started writing, if someone had a feeling about one of my books, they had to sit down at an ancient typewriter or word processor and write a letter and put it in the mail with a stamp to my publisher. And then 18 months later, when they read it, they would say, oh, Sadie really hated that book because you mentioned yoga. That's a true story.
Oh, gosh.
So I'm just saying, like, the effort and the time kind of, it made all of the hysteria go down a notch necessarily just because it wasn't immediate. So you're right that writers today and new writers today have a totally different ballgame.
We have so many young writers coming up now.
Yeah.
And this is the world they're writing in. And
Mhm.
I feel for them because, I mean, I just got a letter recently in the mail. Sometimes young writers will write me mail because they like to actually write because it's such an
Mhm.
old thing to do,
It's
you
an
know?
old art. Mhm.
And it said, she was 16, she had shared something and she felt that it was from the heart and good, and yet she got tore apart and
Mm.
it robbed her motivation and the commentary on it. And I thought real long and hard about this. And I went to Amazon and I looked up Huckleberry Finn and I went to the comment section and I found the hateful, nasty comments and I put it in the letter. And then I went to all of the Jane Austen classics and I went and found the evil comments. And I picked as many classic literature
Mhm.
books as I could find and sent her the ugly comments and said, now, if there were some that she liked and that said, if these people would have stopped writing because of these
Mm.
comments, or if these people would have been writing today, this is what they would be seeing. I mean, how much weight are you putting on this?
Yeah. Yeah, well, we would be impoverished. That would be horrible if they'd said, "Okay, well, I guess I give up." So, what a kind response to that letter writer. I have one more question for you, Sean. You mentioned walking the Camino de Santiago with Jamie not this summer, maybe last summer?
Yeah, no, it was this summer.
Oh, it
It
was
was
this summer. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I'd love to hear a little, whatever you want to say about that, because I hear that there's a book releasing about that very journey. And of course, you are the only human being who could be composing an introduction to a book while writing another book and walking 40 miles a day. So go ahead and tell us I want to hear anything you want to say about the Camino. You mentioned that every day is a life changer. But now that you've had a little bit of distance, what are some of the gifts of that adventure
Well,
that remain?
first I should say is we're going back in a few months
Oh,
because
you are.
it was that wonderful.
Mm,
And when I say that it was powerful, it's not the kind of power you're brought up, or at least I was brought up to recognize. When I think, oh, that's powerful, you're thinking these mountaintop experiences. What it was you have the Camino's 798 kilometers, about 500 miles. And around that region, from France to Spain, you have an annual pilgrim population of about 200,000.
wow.
These are all people from all points of the globe, from Ireland, from Korea, from Nova Scotia, from Texas, from Australia. It doesn't matter. All languages are spoken, every culture. I walked alongside Buddhist monks. I walked alongside Brazilian Catholics. I walked alongside Mormons. And we got to have honest conversations about the funny underwear that they wear. I got to talk to everybody, and you discover something out there that, first of all, you're never having these shallow conversations. They're all so real. They're all
Mm,
so deep because, and it occurs to you while you're walking, everybody who came here for clarity,
mm,
came here for some sort of clarity. And we are all on this. And so, because of this collective mentality of people who are seeking something that they can't even name,
mm,
and that includes myself. I don't know what it is, but I know that I needed. Things start to happen. Little miracles start to happen, and these are the kinds of miracles that happen every day, but you never notice them, you never pay attention to them, and you start to notice the incredible allegorical nature of life. And when you're out there, little events that happen bear a striking resemblance to much larger truths. I mean, you will see a bird out there feeding its young, and you will, because of where you are, because you're living out of a backpack, because you're deprived of all social media and all that kind of stuff, you start to draw similarities between this loving creature and her young, and what God is doing for you, and how you're much worse, much more than these sparrows. And it, every day is filled with that. Every day is filled with a new experience that you just can't put words to, that I mean, there were several nights where Jamie and I had no idea where we were going to stay because all the inns were full, and some little miracle would happen. So one night in particular, we walked like 15 miles and we got to this little town, and it's like almost a third world town. There's no room at the inn. Sorry, you must keep walking. So we keep walking to the next town, another 5 miles, another 10 miles,
Oh gosh.
no inns available. So we're pretty much resigned to the fact that we're going to be sleeping on some church steps or outside somewhere because we've been hearing about pilgrims doing that. But it's kind of cold and it's starting to rain. We finally get to this one inn and I knock on the door and they're full, but she says, maybe we can find room for you. And all the pilgrims in there are so happy to see us. We come
Amazing.
in and we get to use this shower, which is about the same size as a water heater closet. And there's pubic hair coming up out of the drain.
Gross.
And yet you're so grateful for it. And then the guy comes in and he says, okay, it's dinner time. It's supper time. You better hurry or you're not going to get anything to eat. And we're starving.
Yeah.
We get to the supper table and there are people around the table. It's a long wooden table in this adobe room. And they're all around this table from every country, just about Russia, Bolivia, France, Spain, America, England, so on and so forth, Finland. And before we get our dinner, the lady comes in, she says, let's all say a prayer. I'm like, okay. Nobody here speaks the same language. She said, one lady from Austria got up and said, I have an idea. What if we all say the Lord's Prayer in our own language, one at a time? So she says the Lord's Prayer in German. Man next to her says the Lord's Prayer in French. And they look at me. I said, well, I'm from Alabama. And they said, well, do it. So I got up and I said the Lord's Prayer. And as I did, the staff, which is really just a woman and her husband, were bringing the food to the table. The food for the night was a clay pitcher of wine and a loaf of bread.
Wow.
That was it. Lots of bread, lots of wine. And as I'm praying, I said, give us this day our daily bread. And I saw that loaf being put on the table. And I thought, I'm very lucky. I've never gone without bread. I've never gone without what I need. And as I prayed those words, I'm starting to weep. And this guy from England is petting my back. And when I was done, I sat down and the guy across from me said, what the hell did he just say? So it was wonderful.
Wow. Well, I cannot wait to read your book because you said this experience defied words, but you just did a pretty darn good job putting some words to that. I can't wait to read it. This is rapid fire. Hard right turn, book that you recommend to lots of people.
The Story of My Life by Helen Keller.
Okay.
You will find a best friend in Helen. She was a brilliant, brilliant individual and a deeply spiritual woman who had so much to offer. And she's also, bonus, she was a terrific writer.
Oh, great. Awesome.
Anyway,
I have not read that. Wonderful.
I would call her one of my best friends. I've read everything she's written.
Oh, that's fantastic. What a great recommendation. Sean, we haven't talked about this on mic, but my dad passed away suddenly this summer. And I pushed off, speaking of pushing off, no podcasting for quite a good long while. And still, I wasn't so sure that I wanted to do this again because there's nowhere to hide in conversations like this. I can't just like, and moonwalk out of the room, as we said. So when I was talking with Mark and with my friend Anne about, well, who would I talk to in this little mini season in this spring? I said, I just want to talk to people that I love. I just want to talk to people who will be there with me and hear me and know it. And you were one of those people.
Oh, gosh.
So thank you, because I knew you would enter in and that you wouldn't be scared of the merging that you talked about of humor and also heart. And that's where real life is. So thank you. And I'm sorry that I'm not one of those people that cries and sounds like Jennifer Aniston. I sound more like a cat. So sorry, you really did great there when I had that voice, and now I'm going to let you go. But thank you for joining me, and thank you for being that person. And go hug Jamie because I
Well,
love her.
thank you for having me on this, and thank you for making me one of those people.